to the Holyoke School Committee meeting. It is 5:03, April 28th. Roll call, please.
Mayor Garcia,
Here.
Dr. Rivera Colon,
Here.
Mr. Chien,
Present.
Ms. LaFave,
Present.
Ms. LeBron Martinez, Ms. Tensley Williams,
Aki.
Mr. Izaza, Mr. Wellhan, Mr. Collmore, Ms. Wilson.
Present.
Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I see that there is no student showcase. Do we have any public comment?
No.
Right. Student reports?
I'm sorry.
No. So we're moving on to the report of the interim commissioner. Please come up to the mic. We are all eager to hear from you, so please go ahead and welcome.
Thank you so much. And I'm joined this evening by Deputy Commissioner Lauren Wu, who you all know and have worked closely with for some time. Again, I'm Pat Tutwiler. I am the Secretary of Education, also the Interim Commissioner of Education. And we have there's three things that I'd like to do this evening. One is offer gratitude and commendation to all of you, to this board, to the district leadership, to the teachers, educators, and staff of the Holyoke Public Schools, as well as the students and families. It's been a long journey that's brought you to this really important benchmark, and I'm sure, and I know that it's the result of hard work, creativity, innovation, thoughtfulness, and I just want to extend to you my deep thanks for your work. I know that was through a pandemic as well, which having been a superintendent during that period of time, I know how hard that is, but I really do appreciate all the work that's been done that leads us to this really important point. The other thing that I want to do is just kind of frame up our time here with you. We are prepared to present to you a set of exit assurances, which really drive, and there's a slide deck there as well, and I think paper copies coming along in just a moment. This is a piece of the transition process from receivership to local control that both law and regulation offers the commissioner the right to sort of keep key pieces of the turnaround plan in that transitional period as you move on to local control. What we'd like to do is first offer you a high level, what are these and what are they designed to do? And then I'll turn it over to Deputy Commissioner Wu, who will walk you through each one of them, providing both what are the exit assurances explicitly, and then the rationale behind them as well, how they're designed to support continued improvement to sustain the trajectory that the district has been on. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So what are exit assurances? If we were talking about a school that was moving from underperforming status, we're moving out of underperforming status, we would name that there are specific things, again, that the commissioner wants to see remain in that school as they transition out, that are designed to support that continued improvement trajectory. Holyoke is the first district to come out of receivership, so this is a first, but really the same mindset exists around the identification of key pieces of the turnaround plan that should maintain. This is a feature that exists both in statute and regulation, sort of an opportunity that the commissioner can take advantage of to ensure that the district continues to move in a positive direction. Next slide, please. Couple of key pieces that I want to point out relative to the exit assurances. First and foremost, they are squarely in the purview of the commissioner. The commissioner can decide exactly which pieces of the turnaround plan he, she, or they thinks is best fit to continue that improvement trajectory. Those assurances do need to be signed both by the mayor and the superintendent. I want to name that those signatures are not endorsements of the exit assurances per se, but more an acknowledgement of them and a commitment to implementing them as they continue through that transitional period.
Can I ask a question on that?
Certainly. Oh, well, I'm not the
Mr.
chair,
Sheehan?
but I don't mind the questions.
So what I'm wondering about is, just with the signatures on there, is that the mayor understands that, or is that as the chair of the school committee acting on behalf of the school committee?
I believe that the statute requires the chair of the school committee. So in that capacity as
So acting unilaterally, or should the school committee have taken a vote to understand these exit assurances?
I don't think that it requires a school committee vote.
Okay, so it's a unilateral decision by the chair, but not an acknowledgement of the school committee, but solely of one person.
Correct. And an acknowledgement of receipt of
Okay.
the exit assurances.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's more of, sorry, excuse me, Commissioner, sorry.
Mayor Garcia.
Yeah, it's just more of like a receipt, so it's not me approving anything per se, it's just,
Correct.
okay.
Correct.
I think if the school committee wanted to take a vote to accept these and to commitment to implement, then we would be happily, we would put your names on the document. But I think that would be something the school committee could discuss.
Mr. Sheehan?
It's more I bring it up that no one person, I mean, the chair just can't make decisions. So if this is an acknowledgement that a piece of paper has been received, then that's one thing. If it's a acceptance of this or an understanding of it, the school committee hasn't agreed to that, as with any document that would be committed to. So it's, I mean, the only commitment is by a vote. And that's my point, is that the signature doesn't mean an agreement or acceptance of the school committee. Not that we wouldn't, it's just we're all learning as a new pathway on this moving forward.
For sure. Sure. As I said in the outset, the exit assurances are designed to support the transition from receivership to local control. And the commissioner does reserve the right to discontinue any one of the exit assurances over the 2-year period of their existence. And then at the end of that 2-year period, the commissioner can either discontinue all of them, decide that there are 1, 2, or more of them that he, she, or they would like to continue, but they are designed to be transitional in nature. And so that first benchmark is that 2-year period. Next slide, please. Inasmuch as the exit assurances are in the squarely in the purview of the commissioner, I don't want that to connote that the commissioner wrote them in a back room with no consultation or interaction with others. In fact, there was a great deal of this, and I commend former acting Commissioner Johnson, who collaborated and consulted substantively with a number of people, with the mayor, with district leadership. Also want to highlight that the union was consulted, both local leadership, the HTA local leadership, as well as statewide leadership as well, in the development of the exit assurances. I've been in this role, it'll be a month tomorrow, but continued, no one's counting, continued that tradition of consultation and communication with a host of folks, members of this board, the mayor, as well as leadership from the HTA as well. Next slide, please. So as I said in the outset, the exit assurances, again, are really designed to work in service of continued improvement to keep the district moving along the trajectory that it was that brought us to this important benchmark. It's our understanding that the strategic plan, I believe the theme is Juntos Podemos, has been developed and largely reflects a lot of the features of the turnaround plan, right? The early literacy practices, culturally and linguistically responsive multi-tiered systems of support, language access, so forth and so on. The exit assurances are explicitly and in targeted fashion designed to support the implementation of that strategic plan and the furtherance of that strategic plan. And so there are, and you'll hear this in Deputy Commissioner Wu's explanation of each one of the exit assurances, you'll see the connection between that exit assurance and the kinds of things that we want to see happen that are reflected in the strategic plan. Let me pause there and see if there are any questions I can answer, clarifying or otherwise.
Ms. Wilson.
Are we going to be getting a copy of this presentation after? Okay, because it's just, I can't read it. So it's very difficult for me to read this and be able to comment on it because I can't read anything on that page except the top line. Thank you.
This is wait time. So good wait time. Hearing no questions, I will turn it over to Dr. Wu.
Yeah. So as the commissioner said, what you'll see in the actual exit assurances document that we've handed out to the committee are the specific areas of the teaching and learning sections of the turnaround plan that are going to be sustained post-receivership. And those are aligned directly to your strategic plan. And so really what we wanted to do in this part of the priority area 1, priority area 2, priority area 3, and priority area 5 is really just emphasize what you're already doing so that that work continues. You can go to the next slide. When you get to Appendix A, so the turnaround plan contains an appendix called Appendix A. It's the working conditions that are put in place for the collective bargaining agreements. These provisions of the turnaround plan have been modified and kept in, and modified based on the engagement that we did with you all in executive session, also with the union themselves. And so it incorporates the feedback that we received from the specific groups that we engaged with. The first feature that we're keeping in place is around the school-based decision-making. And so currently in your turnaround plan, it identifies that individual schools will create an operational plan. Where we've made a modification and what we're keeping in place is that schools in grade band spans will now be implementing operational plans based on those specific levels, so elementary, middle, and at the high school level. We think that consistency across grade span bands in implementing features of the turnaround plan and the strategic plan to ensure consistency across those bands is going to be really important going forward, especially through this transition. The next feature of the turnaround plan that we're keeping in place in Appendix A is related to the professional compensation system. So as you all know, the collective bargaining agreement currently has in place a performance-based compensation system that contains career ladders, and advancement on that ladder is based on performance. We are choosing to, depending on what happens with collective bargaining and with you all as the committee, a component of the future compensation system should contain a path that compensates teachers based on evaluation and based on performance. And so we've modified that language. You can see it highlighted here in the document, where just a component of that system going forward will be based on performance and contain a career ladder. The next feature of the turnaround plan is related to the teaching and learning time. Next slide. And so where this feature is continuing to be in place is that we currently in the turnaround plan specify a certain amount of days and hours that the district should abide by, and we have removed that minimum threshold. And so where the calendar and the school schedule will still be determined by the receiver and in consultation with the school committee, the specific number of hours identified by the turnaround plan have been removed.
Ms. Wilson.
So the school calendar, we're in the process of updating all of our policies, and our policy is that the school committee votes on the calendar. It's not a sole decision by the superintendent. So when you say that the superintendent will establish the school calendar, are you then saying that the superintendent does not need to seek guidance or approval of the school committee for that decision?
The turnaround plan, the exit assurances specify that the superintendent will do so in consultation with the school committee.
Where does it say that?
In the opening of the exit
You wanna
exit
go over that
assurances.
part?
Because I'm having a very difficult time following the document that was just given to us, understanding it in a way that I'm going to be able to speak to it even at home, never mind with any individual who's concerned about what's happening in our district. I'm having a very hard time not being able to see this and being able to follow along and understand what we are getting back so far, what we are not. So I just want to be clear about that.
Sure. So in your document, after you get through the cover memo, on the very first page of the actual exit assurances document, in the opening preamble, it discusses both the statutory and regulatory provisions for the exit assurances. And then we did note here that where the turnaround plan references receiver, we've changed those references to superintendent going forward, because at the end of receivership, the receiver title and position no longer exists because the school committee retains their authority. And where we've said that where we've replaced receiver with superintendent, we noted that the superintendent will exercise any additional authority granted by these exit assurances in consultation with the school committee.
Ms. Wilson.
So the key term is in consultation, not that the school committee is approving it. He can just consult with us, or she, or they, and if we don't like it, the superintendent can just make a unilateral decision, is how this reads to me.
Mr. Sheehan.
Yeah, I think it's something too that when, as we talked about the previous slides, that I was part of the discussion with Dr. Rivera Colon and the secretary and the deputy commissioner about some of the exit assurances. And I think one of the things that they reinforced too, that yes, it's in consultation, but the superintendent is still first and foremost an employee of the committee.
Correct.
So that just like with bargaining, that it's the school committee's approval with it because they are their employee. It's the same thing that my perception on the word consulted is that it's a high level of consultation with the school committee, and would probably still be an acceptance from the school committee on that, but they would present the calendar. And that's how it was presented to us. I don't know if that's anything you or the secretary want to comment on, if that's something that you still feel the same with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately in our conversation, we had discussed that the school committee still oversees the superintendent, is responsible for the evaluation of the superintendent. And so those decisions that happen in consultation, if the school committee wasn't adequately satisfied with that consultation, they could express that through their oversight and management of the superintendent.
Oh, that's very straightforward. I think your description of it, Member Sheehan, is spot on. And perhaps as we move forward, we can point out where in this document what's being presented is represented so you can follow along accordingly.
Where you see, you can go to the next. So the next exit assurance is on the evaluation. And so you'll see in the document that you have in front of you, the educator evaluation provision here on page 2 of that document at the bottom. And this is the language, sorry, I should have oriented you to this, the document, okay. In the middle column is what you see in the document in front of you. And I've just highlighted the areas that we adapted from the turnaround plan after the feedback that we received. And so what you'll see here is that the educator evaluation system will still be based on the model system that was developed by DESE, except any future adaptations to that system will be done in consultation with the union. So we just wanted to make clear that the union would be consulted about those, any type of adaptations going forward. Great. Finally, in the staffing provision, so we're going to the next one. This is number 7 that you'll see in your document. So in this one, where the staffing authorities previously relied on the receiver to be able to have the autonomy to select staff in filling positions, after consultation with the various stakeholders, we have included in this provision that where all other factors are equal, seniority will be used as a deciding factor. And finally, the last provision that we're keeping in place relates to the grievance and arbitration provision of Appendix A. This provision applies to only features of the turnaround plan that are being kept in place through these exit assurances. And so what you'll see here is that the dispute resolution process that's currently in the collective bargaining agreement, that's currently in the turnaround plan, is remaining the same, except for an additional step that's been added, step 4. You'll see on page 4 of your document, which includes that an appeal process can happen to the Commissioner of Elementary and Secondary Education. And so if a grievance or if a dispute occurs, it would go through the process that's outlined here. And then if there was a further appeal at the last stage, they would appeal to the Commissioner, would be a deciding party. Correct. It's only for provisions that are part of the exit assurances.
Ms. Wilson?
So I guess it's a minor thing, but in any term you use to describe the superintendent, you have his or he. And we've offered the interim superintendent position to a male, but after that it could be a female. So I'm just wondering why you have his or her in other areas, but the superintendent is referred to only as a he or his for pronouns. I just get picky. I'm sorry, because we have individuals who are he, her, and them, and they should be noted that in the form.
That's feedback well taken. I think in the outset, I mentioned the superintendent, and I actually used 3 pronouns.
Yes, you did.
So stylistic, not even stylistic, values-driven feedback taken on that. Thank you.
Ms. Wilson?
I think it's very hard for me to comment because I haven't really had time to really digest anything. So I really feel at a loss to make meaningful comments, to be very honest, which saddens me.
Ms. LaFave?
I'm on the same page with Ms. Wilson. So yes, we are receiving this today. It's like information. but to really capture, and because as you're speaking, at the same time I'm trying to read, but then I'm getting lost and then I'm getting more confused. And to really process everything that's in here, I'm hoping that today's not a vote to accept the exit assurances, but rather to provide us the time to go through these, because at the same time I still feel that the school committee has always been vested, and we've always looked at what's in the best interest for our students. We weren't just given that opportunity 10 years ago. It was very rapid when you had 5 new members who really had a different insight into how we wanted to move this district forward for our students. So this is also like saying that as if we can't handle what there is to come to us when we've been here all along, together, standing strong, always making sure that something that wasn't in the interest for the betterment of our students, we were vocalizing that. Now, whether the decision was made to continue forth with whatever decision at that time it was, at least we know in our hearts that it wasn't the right decision, but at the end of the day, we didn't have that decision-making power. So for me, I would like to have the ability to go through this, plus the slides, kind of really understand, comparing it as well to our turnaround plan, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure not only that this will be reflective of improving our district, but also the morality and what our staff, our students, our families, our community will think of us as a committee on whether or not we can even perform our own jobs, because it'll still feel as if we're being driven a certain way. I want to make sure that our community has faith in the school committee that no matter what, we're going to stand strong on our beliefs on what's best for Holyoke and our students.
Mr. Sheehan.
So I think that when this all came up with Commissioner Johnson month and a half or so ago at our last transition meeting, I think it was important that we asked that this be presented in public here so people could understand, but I don't think there was ever a noted action that the school committee would then not discuss them at all afterwards. And I think that we have another transition meeting, and I think that's something that the chairwoman can compile comment, other school committee members can like there's ample opportunity to be able to read over this, to read over the presentation, and then have the subcommittee be able to kind of dig into some of this with the commissioner, with the deputy commissioner, and be prepared for the transition that's going to happen here, and also the transition that's going to be happening again in a month in Everett. So I think that there's that opportunity at least to continue that discussion, and I don't think that, I mean, I know I'm not reading over all of this. It's this. We're all going to have questions, additional questions now that we see it. So I think that we just use that the mechanism that we have in place to be able to bring those up. I think would probably be the best opportunity.
I think what was important to us is that we get the exit assurances out, we release them officially so that we can have this conversation. And like you said, Member Sheehan, we did want to come in public session to be able to present them for the first time. I hope what you'll find is that in the areas of the teaching and learning provisions that have been kept, that it mirrors so closely to the strategic plan that the school committee adopted and that the district created. And so that will feel like a really solid continuation in which the commissioner is endorsing those aspects. And then again, with the Appendix A provisions, we really wanted to make sure that we were modifying them based on the feedback that we were receiving. And it's really important for the continuity to be able to keep those aspects in place with that modification.
Ms. Lefebvre.
So I just want to make sure that this last page signed by our mayor and the superintendent, because when I hear implement, it just means it's an automatic given. It's an acceptance. This is what we're going to do, period. Does not mean that. Instead, it means I would have preferred to see that, the following signatures represent that the exit assurances were received. But when I hear implement to me means we're going to do this. But out of respect for the school committee, we are a 10-member school committee who's been here the whole time, and we just want to get that same level of respect, and making sure that this is not a given, that it's an absolute, even though at the end of the day, more than likely it's going to be, but at least give us that opportunity to go through it versus like, yeah, we're going to hear you, whatever, because it's already a done deal.
Commissioner Tutwiler.
Yeah. We were really intentional about putting the second or third slide in that included the stakeholder consultation piece because this is a collaboration. I also was intentional about including the slide that said, it's in the purview of the commissioner. We want to be close partners with you. We're not, dropping this and running. We're happy to come back and answer more questions about it. But just want to name again that it was the result of pretty significant stakeholder consultation. And we're now at the point where we're having a public conversation about it. And absolutely, if more time is needed to let it sink in and think about what questions you might have, we're happy to continue to partner.
So now that this is public, right? So now we can talk about it, which is great. Where does it live? If I want to tell the public, okay, these are the exit assurances and I want them to know where they are, where do I send them to?
It's a great question. So you're going to receive this in your inbox right around 6 o'clock. We wanted to make sure that we did this meeting and talked to you about it, answered any questions. It's going to go to the community and it'll be posted on your website, the district website, including the slide deck that we have here, as well as the letter, which you have in English and in Spanish. So what you have is just a cover memo describing what's in the exit assurances and then the actual exit assurances document.
Thank you. Mr. Collymore.
Can you people give us in writing where it says, someone made a statement here that under the law, only you, the commissioner, can approve the plan. Thank you.
In writing. All right.
Okay, thank you, because I just received this.
Yeah, for sure.
Ms. Wilson.
So I'm trying to wrap my head around. So looking forward I'm just thinking, as of July 1st, is this the document we're going to reference that we are ensuring that we are meeting expectations? Or is it going to be a different document? And is there an expectation? Well, first of all, let's start with that one. Is this going to be the document that we're going to be referencing?
Yeah, after June 30th, assuming that the district fully exits receivership, which we intend for that to happen, then the turnaround plan will no longer be in effect, and then this is only the features of the turnaround plan that will continue.
Okay. Is there going to be monitoring of our adherence to this? And if so, what type of kind of meetings are going to be expected, or discussions or communications going to be expected?
So I want to lift up that there's not muscle memory around this because this has not happened before. But I would say in as much in about a month's time or maybe two, there'll be a new commissioner. I will stay engaged as well. And it's will be my expectation that the commissioner continues to partner closely with the superintendent, occasional appearances with the board to understand how things are going in the district. There aren't specific data points or benchmarks or elements to say, like, if you do this, then, at the expiration of the 2 years, these go away. It just sits in the realm of the commissioner to decide after 2 years, I'm going to discontinue all of these, or I'd like to see this one continue with a rationale for why. So that's kind of where we are. Good question.
Mr. Sheehan?
Just two things on that. So I will just say, like, I think that this report, and not even reading over it yet, is really just when we talk about what is guiding us, we really need to be focused on the strategic plan. And then this is just something on the side that lists out other things. Because if we are following what has been in the strategic plan, then nothing in here really matters. And I say, I don't say that lightly, but I say that, like, if we're following what's there, then things in here should be met, like, in theory. But as far as monitoring, I mean, there's still the normal, like, Center for School Support, like the tiered focus monitoring, all that's going to be going on that with every other. So we'll be getting that normal progress or having that normal progress monitoring just like before.
Ms. Lefebvre?
And I'm going to assume we're still going to continue with the local control subcommittee, but now it'll be based off of the exit assurances, and if that's the will of the school committee, because although yes, we go back into local control, there's still things in here that obviously they're expressing that have to continue, and which will be reevaluated in 2 years from then. But again, that's the will of the committee.
Mr. Sheehan?
I'll just say, I think that if that maintains and the committee wants to maintain, the real focus should be, like I said, less about this and more about the progress on the strategic plan, and that the real focus on those benchmarks rather than what's in here. I think that this just complements that, but I think our real focus needs to be on that strategic plan and holding the superintendent accountable for the strategic plan.
Ms. Wilson?
So I'm just trying to understand this from a teacher's perspective for collective bargaining purposes. So let's just go under item 4, professional compensation system. So this is the overriding system that is in place, and that the union cannot negotiate anything other than this. Just to clarify that under for professional compensation, that it can be modified, but we must maintain a career path with a component of performance, right? So we can have that path, but we could have a secondary path as well. We don't just have to have the one. So you can negotiate something different. Okay. And then under, may I continue? It's coming now. The brain's starting to work again. So under teaching and learning time, the current day school schedules will continue. So that's the starting hours, the ending hours, the amount of hours on learning, the professional development. Are professional development days considered school schedule or part of the school calendar? Because I'm wondering if union members are looking to negotiate professional development days, and is that something that they're going to be allowed to do?
Yes, it falls under the school calendar and the daily school schedule, but I think that the way that it's written here can provide input from the union and discussions at the table. And I know that you all have gone over the last year in a pilot around your school schedule to try to improve the time that teachers are spending to improve working conditions. And so, I would imagine that the superintendent in his role would continue to update the school committee on the progress before making, final decisions.
So the union can negotiate this as part of their collective bargaining.
This could be in consultation with the union, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Soto.
Yeah, Ms. Wilson, I just wanted to provide a little bit of context here. What was initially in the turnaround plan required a minimum of about 1,200 hours. I don't know the exact, but that was, back in 2016.
Correct.
The school day was, close to 8 hours. And I want to say that since the beginning of receivership, we have significantly reduced the amount of time required around student learning time, and we're this current schedule that we have in place, which we came to all of you and discussed the pilot that we were implementing today, puts us really close to the minimum required by state law. So when you say that there is that this can be negotiated, like I really do think that when it relates to student learning time, we're pretty close to the state mandated minimum number of hours. But this language definitely, I commend the commissioner for incorporating this feedback based on the meeting that was had with the union leadership. Because if what was initially in there was stayed, then we'd be back to the 1,200 hours,
Right.
much longer days, and so I just wanted to provide that context.
Ms. Wilson.
I wasn't speaking so much as to time on learning. I'm talking about professional development. I'm not saying it's not worthwhile. I'm not saying that it's not relevant, but I feel that I've gotten input from some educators that we have way too much, and it's repetitive, and so that's why I was looking at that. Professional development days can be negotiated.
Ms. LaFave.
I'm going to put in a motion that the Holyoke School Committee accept the exit assurances provided by DESE.
Motion made by Ms. LaFave, seconded by Ms. Stansley Williams. Discussion. Seeing no discussion. Oh, Ms. Wilson, go ahead.
I do want the pronouns updated. I'm sorry, but I feel is that I will not vote in acceptance of it based upon pronouns that were used. It's a big thing in my policy and governance. So
Yeah, absolutely. We apologize for that. My understanding was that Mr. Soto was going to. Okay, so yeah. Yes, we will make that change.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Mayor Garcia.
so if that changes, if they're noting that change is going to be made, I can then
Who
vote.
made the motion?
Ms. LaFave
I
made the motion.
originally made the motion.
Any chance you can amend it?
Of course, I could amend it. And Mr. Sheehan shared even a more exciting referral.
Okay.
Of course he would. So the motion would be that the Holyoke School Committee vote to accept contingent upon the changes to
Pronouns.
throughout the exit assurances on gender neutral language and refer to the local control subcommittee. Yeah, we do.
Yes, you may. You may second on the amendment. That was Ms. Stansley Williams. Discussion on the amendment. Not. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So the amendment passes. Now we vote on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Motion passes unanimously. Ms. LaFave.
I asked to move out of out of order. The input from school committee on commissioner's evaluation of receiver superintendent.
Seconded by Mr. Sheehan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Thank you so much, Commissioner. Thank you so much, Deputy.
Thank you, Commissioner.
We are so happy that you were able to make it, and thank you. Go ahead, Ms.
So-
Lefebvre.
Miss Wu, if you can just hold on. The reason why I had asked, and just in case that I may have misinterpreted at any given point, this way we can have your feedback back. On April 22nd, I had a meeting via Zoom with Lauren Wu and Jennifer Wu, and we discussed regarding the evaluation on the current receiver / superintendent. So the commissioner must submit the evaluation by July 1st. So with that being said, because part of the building capacity plan, not the building, the school committee capacity plan, it says in there that the school committee would provide feedback on the evaluation of the receiver. On May 12th, Mr. Soto will be providing the quarterly 3 updates on progress towards goals. Now, what we will be focusing on is the goals that we had approved and took a vote on, which is his professional development goal, student learning goals, and the district goals. Now, what we need to determine today is whether one thing first. 2 things. Thank you, Devin. Is it going to be that each individual member of the school committee is going to comment on the evaluation of the said goals that we had approved? Or are we referring this to leadership, accountability, and measurements, and they will be the ones commenting, making the comments on it and on the evaluation, and then that will be presented to the school committee hopefully by June 9th, so that then once approved by the school committee, it will go to the commissioner and Lauren Wu.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Woo! It's getting hot in here. I was starting. So, if it's okay with the vice chair, discussion on what the school committee would like to do in that aspect.
Mr. Sheehan?
I'm going to make a motion that the school committee proceed with an evaluation of the superintendent's goals by each member filling out an evaluation form by May 23rd and submitting to me for aggregation along with the leadership accountability subcommittee.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Ms. Lefebvre?
Which tool will we be using? Who will be sending out that questionnaire?
So the
survey.
goals won't even be, the superintendent will be presenting the goals at the next meeting in May. And so the tool will be the already approved document that we have, which is the DESE approved superintendent evaluation. So after that meeting, it'll be ready to go. And so members will have from that meeting, which I think is May 5th.
May 12th.
May 12th, from May 12th until the 23rd. So it then can be dealt with by the subcommittee, and then it can be presented to the superintendent on June 9th. And then in time for whatever commissioner does it, to be done by the statute requirement, which is July 1st.
So,
And I will say, just as a reminder, we have already received the progress towards the goals. It's not like we're receiving it for the first time on in May. We got an update in February. Yeah.
Ms. LaFave.
So going off of that, who will be sending the evaluation tool to each member? Number one. Number two, is it
Miss Feliciano will have it to send out to everyone.
number two, for those that do not have computer access, will it be provided to them paper based? Okay.
But I need it back typed.
You need it.
For the committee to aggregate it, so someone's gonna have to find someone to type it for them. It needs to come back typed. Like that's, the district can help, but it need all comments, and it is public. So whatever you put on there is public. If it's not submitted by the 23rd, it's not submitted. Like that's the drop dead. It needs to be in my hands electronically. It's gonna be a fillable document, but to aggregate it in this short amount of time, like we need to use the technology that we have.
Ms. Wilson.
So you want it by the 23rd of May. And then when is your subcommittee meeting going to review that?
I emailed the subcommittee and they agreed to meet on May 28th.
And then it's going to come back to the full school committee or not?
Full school committee.
It does come back, and that would be in,
June 9th.
okay.
And the aggregation, all of the raw data will still be with the aggregate. So and the school committee can vote to accept the aggregated data or not. But everything will be attached.
Thank you.
So this is also a little bit different from a normal superintendent evaluation because there is no statutory requirement on superintendent evaluations. There are statutory requirements on receiver evaluations. So that's why it has to happen. So some of the goals, because they're end of year goals, it might be that it's just progress towards the goal. So we won't have necessarily end of year data, whereas with a superintendent evaluation, we could wait until October for MCAS data. Like there's just different things that you can wait on, and you can't with this. And that's the nature of when the law was written 12 years ago.
More than 12 years ago. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
The motion.
So this seems like the natural end of the discussion. So we will take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Motion passes unanimously.
Sure, she can go now.
You can go home.
Let them go.
Dr. Tutwiler has to sit back. No, I'm only playing. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Soto, you're up.
Thank you.
Hold on. Mr. Sheehan has a question.
I'll wait a second. At 6:20 Wednesday afternoon. And I went through the whole agenda when I got it, and then today when I was looking at it, there were new things on the agenda. Were things added to the agenda between email going out? There was nothing changed on the agenda from 6:20 on Wednesday to today?
I haven't changed anything.
Okay.
And actually, I didn't even have access until earlier today. But typically, so there's the agenda and then there's the packet. Sometimes there will be things added to the packet. We usually try to get them to you. So once the agenda is posted, that's the agenda. But the supporting documentation that's in the superintendent reports, sometimes those things will follow a little later. I've been trying to make sure that once the agenda is set, all of that is taken care of based on feedback that I had gotten in the past from this committee. So it used to be where the agenda set and then, a new presentation is shared like the day of the meeting. I'm trying to do away with that, and in rare situations that'll happen, but we try to get the supporting documentation of the agenda to everyone that Wednesday or Friday before the meeting. But the agenda itself, like the agenda topics and what's posted, not the supporting documentation, to my knowledge, I haven't changed anything
Okay.
and normally don't.
Okay. Thank you.
So in your packet, I included a funding advocacy letter. This is something that our executive director of finance is hoping that the school committee would support, sending to Pat Duffy and Senator Vilas, just advocating for some things around the Fair Share Act surplus that the state has. So you could see there that, advocating for circuit breaker reimbursement to provide 90% reimbursement would mean Holyoke could potentially see an extra $1.4 million in the budget. Advocating for 100% McKinney-Vento transportation reimbursement, that could be approximately $300,000 for Holyoke. And then advocating for out-of-district vocational student transportation and providing 100% reimbursement. You could see there 35,000, and then an increase in Chapter 70 funding that reflects excess inflation that was capped in previous years. You can see that that's about another $1 million. So, I have already spoken personally to our local legislators and expressed this as important to Holyoke. I meet with them on a monthly basis. But if it is the will of this body, our executive director of finance is hoping that the school committee is willing to advocate for this to our legislators.
Ms. Wilson.
I'd like to make a motion that we sign it as far as the Holyoke School Committee and send it supporting these measures.
Seconded by Mr. Isasa. Mr. Wellahan.
Thank you. Thanks again for the synopsis. This was vetted through our finance committee back in March. Just want to thank Sean, our executive director, for putting this together for us. So again, these are topics that really budget busters, really, in terms of the transportation, the state not reimbursing us for the full percent for the law. Okay, that's typical up in Beacon Hill. So hopefully we're not the only community that are having these issues. They're all most of the towns are in the red with transportation costs going up, et cetera, et cetera. And just the services that we have to provide these days, it's been increased since COVID, and the state hasn't increased the funding for that. So I just want to thank Mrs. Wilson for the motion, and hopefully we can vote on this and move it on to Boston. Thank you.
Seeing that there's no more discussion, we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
So moved. Thank you so much. Mr. Wellahan.
Thank you. There was a good article on this on this topic in this week's Holyoke Sun.
Excellent. So moving on to new business, out-of-state field trips.
Motion to take as a package? No.
No.
Okay, let's start all over again. Okay, that the school committee vote to accept the out-of-state field trip to Stafford Motor Speedway on June 13th, 2025.
Seconded by Ms. Stensley Williams. Discussion. Ms. Wilson.
It doesn't have the nurse's signature. So that causes me concern because it appears that that's approval are required and it's not signed by the nurse.
Mr. Sheehan.
Agreed. I'm wondering how it got through the principal and the superintendent without the nurse sign off.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the process. The nurse has to review it within 60 days of the trip happening. They wanted to get this approval from the school committee first, but you know, the nurse will be reviewing this as they do with every single field trip.
Move to table.
Second. He's got it.
Seconded by Mr. Collmore. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
That the school committee vote to accept the out-of-state field trip to New Hampshire Motor Speedway on September 20th, 2025.
Seconded by Mr. Isasa.
Move
Discussion.
to table.
I second that.
Seconded by Ms. Wilson. Discussion.
There's no form attached. I only have the.
It's underneath. Keep scrolling.
It's in the same.
Oh, it's in the same page. I apologize. Yep, I would do. Yep, no nurse signature.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Let's try this again. That the school committee vote to accept the out-of-state field trip to Summers, Connecticut, Sunny's Place on June 6th, 2025.
Seconded by Mr. Isasa. Discussion. Mr. Sheehan.
So I noticed on here, and this wouldn't give me cause to not approve this, but why, if we ask for transportation costs, will the bus company not give quotes until these are approved? And why would we even be okay with them doing that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, Devin?
It says on transportation costs, I have to have this form signed and approved to be able to receive the bus costs. I don't understand why the bus company would be functioning like that.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure. Once the bus company gets this form, they're able to, like, even without the signatures, we can plan the field trip. So, your question is, are there restrictions to the bus company setting up transportation? Is there a requirement that they have school committee approval first, or?
No, the form that your office created lists
Yeah.
transportation costs. And
Yes.
it's been signed off by the teacher, the principal, and you, and it says I have to have this form signed and approved to be able to receive the bus costs. So either the form needs to be changed and we shouldn't be asking for transportation costs, or the bus company won't give the cost. Like, what's the problem?
Or the person coordinating the trip thinks, there's a misunderstanding there that they think they need school committee approval before they reach out to the bus company. But yeah, there's nothing preventing us from asking the bus company for transportation costs, absent this form. They just need the dates and what bus and the, estimated number of students so that they can figure out who they have available and what the cost is going to be. So I can speak to the person that coordinated this trip. I can speak to Principal Burke, and lay out expectations moving forward that we get all that information prior to it coming to school committee.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Sheehan.
Yeah, so these forms shouldn't even make it here. So whoever's checking these forms, like, they shouldn't even come into school committee if they're incomplete. And I mean, stuff like there's a problem with the process if we're not getting transport. Like, there's something weird with that. Same thing with the nursing. So they shouldn't even make it to the school committee. It's not, that conversation should have been held a while ago with the person when this came through on April 4th, I think, or signed on April 4th. So that's my issue. So either the form needs to be changed, which it may need to be changed, or the bus, there's some miscommunication. And I'm all for these kids going to Sunny's place, and I'll approve it. But there's a breakdown in this, that also just shouldn't be getting signed off. And maybe it's another layer on these. Maybe the school supervisor or whatever the title, one of the two school supervisors should get it before it goes to the superintendent to review to make sure all this is done. Or, I mean, there should be some review, and they should probably be getting stamped and dated when they're coming into the office too, just so we know when they arrive, especially to meet the guidelines. So whenever these come in, there should be some sort of record of when they arrive into there. So there needs to be some process with these, and soon to be any travel forms that are coming to the school committee, because I will also say it as the travel policy goes back into effect on July 1. So if there's any travel over the summer of anyone traveling out of state, we need all those forms ASAP to approve for anything after July 1, for just training travel and stuff. So I just, these things can't slip through the cracks.
Yeah. Irene, can you make a note of that? It's not for a lack of review. It's just not, this normally had come to me for approval, and, for me to approve this, the approval for me was about the out of state travel, the out of state field trip happening and requiring my approval. Once my approval was in place as the receiver during receivership, the schools did work to get all that other information, and it just allowed them to get approval from me first. And then there's other forms that are filled out once they get closer to the date. So, point noted, I'll make sure that, as I'm reviewing these, I will make sure that it's filled out in its entirety. The nurse approving stuff so far in advance, I could see that being a challenge, because they don't know exactly who the students are that are going to be attending the field trip. If the field trip is, 3 months away or 2 months away, and they're working to try to get kids, they try to make sure that they have a complete roster of the kids first, and then that the nurse approves it. So I could see that, that being the reason why it didn't go to the nurses right away. First, they got to get a list of all the participants, get confirmation that they're going, and then it goes to the nurse, and they take care of that. Those things do happen, but yeah, I could see the concerns that are being brought up, and I could see the questions that are happening. What I will do moving forward is that I'm not going to bring anything to the school committee unless these are all filled out in their entirety. And in the scenario that I just mentioned, I'd like to consult with you, Dr. Rivera-Colon, or Mr. Sheehan, around that nurse piece. Like, if the roster is not set yet and they're just looking for approval for an out of state, that's really the approval piece that they're looking for. Some of the logistics they haven't ironed out yet, but the approval, if the school committee denies the out of state field trip, it's dead, and then that other planning doesn't happen. But for sure, no, point taken, and I'll make sure that these things are filled out in their entirety. I've been getting feedback, one of the questions that I've always gotten was, is there any cost to the student? So we updated the form to include that. That wasn't on the form before. So as I'm getting this feedback from all of you and how the things that are important to you as you're approving these, I'm going to make, we'll make sure to adjust the process and let staff members that typically plan these trips know what the expectation is. And, I've also included that additional description page that wasn't there before, because I noticed that some of these forms were coming in, and even me, as I was approving them, I didn't understand. It's like, where are we going? Why are we going? Who's going? And these are things that, as you guys are giving us feedback, I'm incorporating into this form without trying to make this 5-page form.
Hold on. Ms. Wilson.
So one thing that concerns me greatly in these forms was that I found that's concerning to me is that we don't have a separate line for any small bus transportation that's required, because if a student has an IEP and special transportation is checked off on that box, they legally should not be taking a large bus to any off-campus site. They need to be taking a small bus to any, wherever they go, because that's the agreed upon, document that the IEP team. So I would like that something to be noted in there about it. Is there any small bus transportation required? To make sure that it's been thoughtful, and I don't want to have to suggest that we have the Director of Student Services signing off on this, but this has been a constant concern of mine, because I feel as though we are putting students on large buses and we are breaking our legal obligation. Thank you.
Ms. Tensley Williams?
I agree with Devin. And say they make a decision in one way, and then when all this stuff comes in, there's another decision to make. So sometimes you can quote one price, and then when it comes in, like, oh my God, the budget is, what is this? So I agree with Devin. We need to know. So, and he just answered, Mr. Soto just answered the question. So I really didn't need to ask it.
Mr. Collymore?
And maybe the doctor or the superintendent can answer this question. A lot of these trips are under grants, correct?
Some are under grants, some are under, I can't just give you a blanket statement that all field trips are under grants. Some are grant funded. Some are funded through student activity fundraising. And in some cases, some students pay to attend.
The real question I want to find out is why, if it's under a grant or whatever it's under, why do students have to pay for this to go?
Most of the trips that have come to the committee did not have a cost associated to the student. I did look at one today that will be coming that was a $30, it's a combination of fundraising through student activities and a $30 charge to each student, but not like so far, all of the field trips that have come here for out-of-state travel were, the ones that have been put on the agenda and put in front of you for out-of-state travels. All of that was at no cost to the student. But it's still, as part of the form, we list what the costs are associated with the trip and what the funding source is.
There be anything at all charged to a student to go on field trips?
It depends. I mean, there are scenarios where, the school doesn't have it in their budget. They do fundraising and try to make it so that it's 100% free, but aren't, and that's not uncommon.
Well, I'm just concerned about legal.
There's nothing illegal about.
If it's under grants or things like this, and we're denying a student from going.
I don't think that anyone has expressed denying a trip, but I think that what I've heard tonight is that they'd like that committee members would like to make sure the form is filled out in its entirety and before it comes to the school committee for approval. And that I will do moving forward.
Mr. Wellahan?
Thank you. I don't like to micromanage. You know that. But I'm just listening to my colleagues. I think we just got to create it's just a master checklist. Nurses provided, yes. Funded in place, Mrs. Williams, yes. By what formula? Was it a grant? Was it local fundraising? I know Mr. Williams had questions before on chaperones in place. Yes. How many? Yes. type of transportation. Just a master checklist, approval, initial approval, secondary approval, final approval. It's just a massive checklist just to get our ducks in order.
Yeah.
So it comes in here and,
Yeah, that's
we
what
can
the
vet
form
it.
is.
We can vet it real quick. It just seems like we're going back and forth all the time. So, okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sheehan.
All of that's on. It just needs to be filled out, and that's so. That whole checklist is here. It just needs to be completed. So I think we have it. Like it just needs to be done.
Ms. LaFave.
So, first, just answer me this. For what's the purpose that you have to have the nurse's signature on here ahead of time?
The purpose is for the nurse to review each student that is going, and if there is a student that needs medication administered and that it has to be by a nurse, then the nurse would be going on that trip. A nurse
But-
or a vendor would be going on that trip if the parent isn't, a chaperone already going. That's typically why, this gets vetted by the nurse. They take a look at who's going, and they review any medical, where they're going and whether or not there's any concerns based on the medical history of the student, and they would voice that prior to the trip.
That's fine that they have to do that, but my question is, why do they have to be part of the signature versus the process of what needs to be done once the field trip is approved? Because obviously, if you don't know who the exact students are, you just know it's random 25, and they're not going to see it till after the fact to then determine, okay, who did we get back, approval signed by the families that they're going. I think it's more of the system of what the process is going to be afterwards. So,
Yeah.
in my personal opinion, I don't need to know whether the nurse looked at it yet because we still don't know who these students are.
Yep.
But this is approved, but the process should show then that like a different form or something that's internal that you guys can go back to and you can hold accountable and say, no, the nurse did sign off and say that she viewed this was the final list of students going. This is how, if we needed to send a nurse with them, whatever. And if you want to provide that after to the school committee, fine. But the beginning process when you don't even know who's going, that's just, right now we're here tabling. It says here minimum 60 days in advance. We're already past the 60 days. So technically at some point she should have signed this already because we are now less than 60 days away. And now here we are tabling and it won't come back till May 12th with the hopes that she did sign off. But at the end of the day, you're the receiver. You still make the decision. We're going to accept, but I'm just saying for future, if we really don't need it there, then
Yeah.
find a different process internally. But I think that process needs to be the same across the board. None of that autonomy as to how each school wants to do it. No, we're not going to have you sign here, but this is going to be the process moving forward, and every school has to follow the same and keep that documentation.
Yeah, we do. So this was just the approval form. There is a separate form that gets filled out once the approval happens that has a bunch more information. So I agree with you. I think that there's like too much on this, and we got to consider like pulling stuff out for this initial approval. And I'm seeking permission to work with somebody on the board to make sure that, the things that matter most to your approval are on this initial stage, and the things that don't need to be here, we just take out and keep in the, like we could show you the entire field trip procedures that includes this form, and that includes the forms that get filled out after the fact, which includes permission slips and things like that need to get filled out.
Ms. LaFave.
So with that being said, wouldn't that be something that policies, because obviously this falls under, well, we have field trips and policies,
Procedures.
but then it's a procedure based on that policy. If you're looking for somebody to help adjust this, but my recommendation is get rid of the nurse signature. Whatever is making this even more, get rid of it. Have your process after the fact. Just bring forward the principal signature and make sure that the costs are there. In my opinion, I'm going to assume, like if I wanted to do a bingo trip and I called a bus company, King Ward, and I say I'd like a quote for this day, they're going to give me a quote, right? I don't understand how we can't get a quote for the other bus, that we have to wait till we get it approved. That just doesn't make no sense.
Yeah,
Just saying. And I love bingo.
Miss Wilson.
First of all, I think the nurse signature is there because of nursing costs. Because if you look, there's like the first one was for 8th grade students. You know who your 8th grade students are, and does anyone require a nurse to go with them? So that would be in part of the cost. That's why the nurse is signing off on this, is my assumption, because of nurses' costs, and there's a section for nurses' comments. So that's why I think it's there. And secondly, I'd be happy to work not as part of the policy, but as an individual member of the school committee to help our receiver superintendent with this form.
Mr. Isasa?
In view of the comments made about the nurse's signature, might we not want to reconsider the ones we table? So we get that out of the way.
Mr. Sheehan?
Until something's changed, I mean, it's, unless the procedures are going to change, but I'm following the procedures set by the receiver's office who created the form. Maybe nurse is necessary. There could be a law that says, I mean, until we, so.
Mr. Collmore?
I think that at the present time, the way the situation is, that rather than table it, for the present time, until it's solved, give the discretion to the superintendent whether to allow these things to happen. I mean, we can't stay and wait until all this stuff is compiled to allow students to go on a field trip or something like this. I think we ought to just give the superintendent of the school the authority until such time as we make a real progress on this. Then let's leave it that way.
Ms. Lefebvre?
He already has it. We're just voting to accept and say, great, have fun. But to approve it, it's already been approved. It's going to happen. We're just, I guess when we move forward as of July 1st, this is what needs to happen, because then it's going to fall on us approving it. So we've got to fix this process. But at this time, June 6th and June 13th are going to happen. September 20th isn't going to happen until that one gets figured out, revised, whatever, what have you. But I mean, if they don't know who's going to go June 6th or June 13th, I highly doubt they know who's going to go September 20th.
Mr. Sheehan?
Just to make a point, there's, the one at hand is not missing that information at all. And there's a motion on the floor to approve the MedCap trip. So. Yeah, that one's, yeah, that's.
I call the motion.
Seeing that discussion is over. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. All right, next up we have budget transfer for approval. Mr. Wellahan.
Does Mr. Soto want to speak on it first, and I'll piggyback on it.
Yeah, all of these
In
have,
order, can we have a motion for the discussion?
I'll make the motion to allow Mr. Soto to speak on the issue.
Mr. Sheehan,
It's motion.
seconded. Discussion.
I think the motion was the action that was going to be necessary, not just permission to speak. I think we were looking for an actionable motion.
I think the motion that
Make
they're
the motion
looking,
to accept the transfer requests.
Right, do we have a second? Second by Mr. Isasa. Discussion. Mr. Soto.
yeah, I mean, the information on all of these transfers is linked into the agenda. The first one, pupil services, is to cover consumables for some new curriculum that we purchased, and realized that we needed more materials and kits for students. So that's going to be coming from the pupil service software line and move to instructional materials. This did go to this went to subcommittee and is now seeking approval of the full committee, as did all of these. The second two lines is from contingency to contracted services, and that's to cover the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission for facilitation of the community advisory board work. Just to note there is already a contract in place with that vendor, so this we haven't processed any payments to the vendor or anything like that. We're waiting for this transfer to happen so that once we do get billed, we're able to process that. And then the last one is also one that was already in front of the committee and went to subcommittee for review and is now coming back. And that's for 2 students that had moved into the district and are attending Lawrence School, where the behavior tech support is needed to support their transition to the new school.
Ms. Wilson.
So the special ed curriculum, that's been brought before us already, and we've already reviewed that new curriculum as a school committee?
You didn't review the curriculum per se, but that's new curriculum that we have in place and we need more of it.
Did the school committee ever review the curriculum?
I don't think that you've reviewed any of the curriculum that we have.
Okay. I'm just, because as we move forward, that is something, as we update our policies, I think we are supposed to be allowed to preview it and offer comments, so that's why I was just asking that.
Yeah, there was, so last year when we did a brand new curriculum implementation of grades 3 to 5 ELA, we did do a presentation to the school committee. Trying to jog my memory if this was included in that or not, but I can tell you that whenever moving forward, and since I've over the last year and a half, as we've been talking about local control, these are things that I am always looking to bring forward to the committee. I think my leadership team is tired of me asking, is there a school committee policy on this? And when are we going to the school committee on this? Like that's, that's loud and clear. Just as with the field trips, we have been bringing these, although the receiver has the ability to approve them, we're trying to get in the habit of being ready for local control. And those are some things that, if we were implementing a new curriculum for next year, that would be coming to this body.
Thank you.
Mr. Wellahan.
Thanks again. Yeah, these transfers were, they're vetted, I think, at our March meeting, with the finance director. I know that last one with the, registered behavioral technicians, I think this is the second time that we've, transferred money for this type of, support. I know Mrs. Wilson had concerns that the jobs are being they're being processed through contract. There's just a need for that type of support with our students. Again, this is the second time that cost has come to us. I'm not sure whether that's gonna continue going forward, but these were approved, and we're asking for your support tonight. Thank you.
Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Next up, we have approval of meeting minutes. I have a motion.
I'll make a motion that the school committee vote to approve the meeting minutes of February 24th, 2025.
Seconded by Ms. Stanley Williams. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
That the school committee vote to accept and approve the meeting minutes of March 10th, 2025 school committee meeting minutes.
Seconded by Mr. Isasa. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Make a motion to vote and accept the meeting minutes of January 23rd, 2025 of the Finance and Operations Subcommittee.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. LaFave. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
That the school committee vote to accept and accept the meeting minutes of February 27th, 2025 Finance and Operations Subcommittee meeting.
Seconded by Mr. Isasa. Discussion. Mr. Willihan.
Thank you. Yeah, these the minutes in our packet, those are like the rough draft minutes from that meeting. So I'm going to ask that the finance committee approved a set of minutes that are not included in your packet tonight. So I'm just going to ask that we table those minutes that you have tonight, and we'll get you a revised copy at our next meeting.
So moved.
Right? Discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Collmore.
I moved to second the motion.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Updates on committees. Policy and Governance Subcommittee. Ms. Wilson.
We had a lengthy meeting this past Wednesday. We've gotten through most of the section I, which is a significant accomplishment. So we just have J, which is another lengthy policy section, K and L. And then there's some miscellaneous ones that were on hold. So you should be seeing more on a regular basis coming through. So, and our next meeting is, I want to say, what? May 7th. I have it scheduled at 5:30. It may be needed to change to 6, but I will let the individuals know that are on the committee and all school committee members. So it would be May 7th. We're going to finish up with I and move to J. And just as a note, we are cleaning up many policies that are part of a union contract. We don't feel there's a need to have things in both a policy and the contract because the contract supersedes the policy. So we want to make sure that we have what's currently in the contract. That is what is working. Did that make sense? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Soto?
Ms. Wilson, I think Shayna's going to be reaching out to you because May 7th, we have the Pioneer Valley Excellence in Teaching Award dinner that myself and some team members are going to, so if my attendance is going to be required at that meeting, we have a scheduling conflict there. But I know that normally you guys review them, send them to full committee for comments, and then I'm able to approve them or review them after the full committee sees them. So I don't know if that's going to be a problem, but, I just wanted to make you aware of that.
We can connect
Okay.
at some point discussing if there's concerns or if there's a designee you could have attend.
Mr. Sheen?
I thought members of the school committee were typically invited to that too, but we haven't received anything from your office, Mr. Soto.
Yeah, I'll touch base with Shayna tomorrow. She just made me aware of it today that
That the event, you just found out the event was May 7th?
I'm sure I found out that the event was May 7th, but every Monday I meet with Shayna and we go over the next couple of weeks, and that was a conversation that we had today. So, we'll. Is there anyone that would like to attend? Like, I would be happy to accommodate that.
Probably once the details go out, we could reply to Shayna.
Okay.
Thank you. So next up, Finance and Operations Subcommittee, Mr. Willihan?
Again, thank you. Yeah, the Finance and Operations Subcommittee met on April 17th. Had a good meeting. We talked about the letter that we voted on tonight for the increased student support revenue from the state. So that was brought up at our last meeting. We talked about the 2000 fiscal year 26 budget calendar, and we're working on that. We're looking to have the budget presentation to the full committee on May 12th. And then we're hoping to have the public hearing on the budget on May 27th. And so I'm a little worried that we're behind on that. Some towns have already adopted their budgets. So that's the news for that. If Mr. Soto can respond to that.
Yeah, I don't think the public hearing is scheduled for May 27th. I've been working with Miss Feliciano and
it's an estimate, yeah.
Dr. Rivera
On my notes,
Colon.
okay.
We're looking to have just our balanced budget presentation and hearing with all of you, either the 12th or the 28th, and then the public hearing will be scheduled sometime in June. But
okay.
I'm working with Dr. Rivera Colon to finalize that timeline. And it's not, it is very much out of line with other communities because other communities, their budget doesn't rely so heavily on state funding. Because our budget relies on state funding so heavily to the tune of 88%, this is right on par. In fact, this is earlier than what we normally do. It's usually in June when we actually have that final presentation.
Okay.
But we're ready to have that in May, and that's typical. You guys seen the budget calendar as part of the transition to local control plan, or the capacity building plan. And this is right in line with that.
Okay, thank you for that. And then our next meeting is scheduled for May 22nd. Thank you.
Mr. Sheehan.
So I'm just curious, the letter that was voted on tonight was already discussed by subcommittee?
Yes, that was vetted.
How did it get there? Because we didn't refer it to subcommittee.
We put it on the agenda, in the finance,
I thought our
Correct.
process was that things come to the full committee, they get referred to subcommittee, that subcommittees don't refer. So we've discussed this before. So
Yeah.
what is the process?
Yeah. I thought it was just like the transfers that are kind of bouncing back and forth.
But like subcommittees don't just bring up their own, like the school committee has to send things to subcommittee. Like how did it get from, did the subcommittee create it? Like how are things bypassing the committee, the school committee?
Can I just,
Ms. Feliciano?
that was emailed by Sean to Mr. Wellahan, for his agendas. That's all I got.
I just don't know how business is brought to subcommittees before it comes here. If we want to change our process, things go to subcommittee, but the process is the committee refers stuff down. Not that, and like, I didn't know that. Like, maybe it was on the agenda, but I haven't seen minutes from that meeting to know that was discussed. It wasn't noted on the agenda that an action was taken by the committee and that was a recommendation. Like it, so I just, so did the committee actually vote on that letter and was that a recommendation to the school committee?
The committee voted to send it here for
Okay, we need to
adoption.
know that, like, this
Adoption.
is, we've discussed this before, like, so is the process that items come here and then go to subcommittees?
Yeah.
Madam Vice, like, is that the process that's to be taken?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, and we've run into this with that committee. So like, there needs to be a discussion with this chief financial officer that it's just not, whatever he wants to put on the agenda goes on the agenda. That stuff has to come here first because we've seen transfers just go and come back. Like this, there seems to be a breakdown in communication and I thought we fixed it a couple months ago with the problem.
Ms. LaFave.
I think we all need to take accountability for our own subcommittees. If so, I mean, if it's supposed to come here first, then we have to say to whomever sends it to us, we got to send it first to the school committee, and then, because I mean, yes, the finance is working directly with the chief financial officer, and the chief financial officer might find things like, oh, we need this. But then it's up to us to be like, well, that's going to go to the committee first so they can refer. You know, it's different for a lot of the people who are now working within the district as to what it looks like coming out of receivership and what it means, like how our policies are. So it's just, again, and this is why I asked to pull some things from the policies that were being brought forth, because I do have questions as to, and we'll talk about that after.
Mr. Willingham.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a valid point. So we'll try to have the items come here first for discussion and then be referred back to the committee.
Thank you. And since we were on that topic, anything that you guys want on the agenda for the full committee has to be sent to me, so that way I know and I can work with Ms. Feliciano to put things on the agenda. And they have to be sent to me 2 weeks before, so that way I have enough time to be able to have all the supporting documents for the agenda. If you do it later, you know it's not going to be happening in the next meeting, and you need a little bit of patience and organization for that. So that way we can do that. And again, you know, so that way all those things are approved by me, and then Ms. Feliciano is able to post those items in the agenda for whatever the next meeting is going to be. So that's the process, and we have to make sure that we stick with it. Next, we have Joint City Council School Committee. Any reports? No. Local Control Subcommittee, Ms. LaFave.
So I've been attending just like an outsider, the community advisory teams, because I'm not part of it. Please, I go as an outsider observing, This way I know what's happening. I've been meeting with Eric Weiss and Gabriella via Zoom, just making sure that they're sent, the agendas are being sent within time. What are they doing? But for everyone to know, May 19th is the community forums, and it's going to be 2 that night. From 4:30 to 6, it'll be at Kelly School. And then from 6:30 to 8, it will be held at Holyoke High North Campus. Now remember, if we all show up, we are not to be together. So please, no 5 people, 5 of us in a table listening to other people, because I'm sure you're going to say something in that table. So please, by all means, spread yourselves out and just be there to observe and listen, because really it's about us listening and not putting in our 2 cents. We can put our 2 cents all we want when we come back here. But that's about it. Local control, thanks to our wonderful member here, Mr. Sheehan, we have now referred to the local control subcommittee, the lovely exit assurances, and obviously the strategic plan will be attached with that. Thank you. So no meeting yet. I will find out.
4:30.
Sorry. So the Kelly School one on May 19th is going to be from 4:30 to 6 p.m. And then that same night from 6:30 to 8 p.m. it'll be at Holyoke High North. There is going to be a virtual option. I'm sorry, I stepped out from the community advisory team meeting today to make sure that I got here on time. So I can't recall when the virtual's going to be, but once I have that information, I will share it along. If you want to participate and hear from the community on the virtual end too.
Thank you, Ms. LaFave. Leadership, Accountability, and Measurement Subcommittee.
So
Mr. Sheehan?
for my subcommittee, we are meeting the 28th of May, and that's to discuss the class rank topic that got referred out and the superintendent's evaluation. And just to assist Member LaFave, the virtual meeting of the Community Advisory Committee is May 21st at 6 o'clock from 6 to 7:30.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on. Ongoing business. Policy removal. Ms. Wilson?
So it's been grouped. So the first section has been recommended that we remove these policies. There is information attached in the attachments that reference the rationale behind. So I think it probably might be best if we go through each of these individually, or can we make a motion for them to be all the ones that are listed to be removed in a group? So I'm gonna make a motion that we vote on.
Ms. LaFave was about to make a motion.
Oh.
Yeah, that the school committee vote to receive recommendation to remove above policies and recommend that the receiver. I'm gonna amend that one. If you don't mind, as for the recommendation that the school committee vote to receive recommendations to remove above policies to become effective July 1st, 2025.
Seconded by Ms. Tensley Williams. Discussion. Mr. Collmore.
Yeah, in discussion, I received a copy, and you all received a copy of the one that was written in 1913 or whatever. Okay? What, do we have a copy right now of when this is going to start? I mean, a copy of the new policy?
Ms. Wilson.
So this group of policies, we're recommending removal. So there would not be any policies put in their place. They are outdated. They are no longer part they are covered in other policies and they're duplicated. So the subcommittee felt that all of these warranted removal.
Mr. Wellahan.
I think we need to list the letters, at least in the motion.
So CCA,
That, I'm gonna do that.
I have it right in front of me too.
Okay.
So the policies being considered are CCA, BDC, CHB, CHC, CL, DBF, DKC-R, and DH.
Mr. Sheehan.
Policy DKC-R, it's one of the two that doesn't actually say why we're removing.
So this turns to be more of a procedure, and that's why we felt as though we didn't need this policy because it's covered under procedures, because the policy itself speaks to what can be reimbursed and and expenses, and that this is something that we felt was just no longer needed.
Where is it covered under, though?
What DKC itself is still a policy. So if you were to, so if we look up DKC,
Nope.
Nope, hold on.
Don't have that one.
Nope, hold on.
Ms. LaFave.
I have here that DKC-R is also GCID-R. So it would be under personnel. GDI.
Sorry, I'm just looking at 4 different
Our
places.
staff
Oh,
travel
okay.
guidelines.
All right, let me just look one more place. I just have to look at several.
Mr. Soto.
Yeah, I mean, that is correct. I think there was, the discussion at the subcommittee was that there was some redundancy with GCID-R, and DK-R being the same.
We
so
are going to be adding DKC. So what happened was that we had the DKC-R, but we never had the actual policy. So we are going to be adding DKC, which is, if my document would like to let me open it. Back, because now I have to go somewhere else because it's not letting me open it. I apologize with all of you. So DKC is staff travel expenses, and it because it's we're not a regional, so that's why there's no R, and I believe, if I give me one more moment, and I'm so sorry, but I knew this was going to be taking time to get through all the different sections. So DKC, the expense reimbursements policy that we are going to propose, talks to travel requests. School committee members must have prior approval. Staff travel requests within budgetary limits. Each request is judged on the basis of its benefit to the district. Did that answer your question, Mr. Sheehan?
Mr. Sheehan.
So what I'm looking here, I'm looking at our policy manual, and I see that we have the DKC-R.
Correct.
We still have, though, the GCID-R in our policy. So All we're doing though is eliminating the DKC-R because it's covered in the GCID-R.
Correct.
We're not removing
At this point, we are not making any recommendations for that.
for G.
Correct.
Okay. So this is just
removing that because it's in two different places.
okay. It just
And in the future, we are going to be adding the actual policy about expenses. Thank you.
Mr. Sheehan?
and then on DH.
Sorry, I'm trying to get. Yes.
There's just no note on here of why it's being removed.
Give me one moment. I'm going to pull up. And you said DH?
Yep.
We felt as though this only speaks, so the main purpose of this is bonded employees, and it speaks to the fact that the municipality will pay for the cost of the bond. And I believe we felt it was self-explanatory that the municipality would pay for the cost of the bond.
But
Mr.
we're
Sheehan?
removing that. Aren't we removing DH fully?
Yes, it was recommended.
So no one will be bonded.
No, it's not saying no one's going to be bonded. I can understand where you're saying that, though. So you're concerned with removal of this, we're not speaking to bonded employees, is your concern?
I guess the policy just goes away if we remove it. That's what I'm unclear on.
The policy would go away, but employees would still be bonded.
Is that under another policy or?
I was just doing a quick search, and I do not see any other policy with regards to that.
And are people currently bonded? Oh, the superintendent can't say that. I mean, are people already bonded?
When you say people, like, are you saying all?
Well, it says each
Staff.
employee of the school district who is assigned the responsibility of receiving and dispersing school funds will be bonded individually or covered by a blanket bond.
Yeah, I think the treasurer is the only one that disperses school funds. So there's definitely some separation of duties there. No one in the school department disperses funds. It goes through a requisition process, and the treasurer themselves cuts checks.
But it
So,
says receives and disperses.
yeah, same thing. Like when money's received, it goes to the treasurer and put into the our Munis system.
So no one touches it from, like,
No one, yeah. So that's through grant funds, through
what about student activity funds?
student activities is different. So student activity funds, that's definitely different. We receive it, but then it goes to, it goes through the layers of approval and then gets submitted to the treasurer for depositing.
So are those people bonded?
I don't have the answer to that question, so I'm gonna have to follow up on that.
So let's table DH.
Second.
I'll make a
Discu-
motion that we table, sorry, I make a motion that we table DH to get clarification on bonding.
Second.
Second by Ms. LaFave. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Are there any other questions regarding any of the policies?
So I'll put in the motion that this, well, if there's a removal of one, do we have to? Okay, all right. So we'll go with all the others. Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. The next one, we have policy first reading. Mr. Sheehan.
I will make a motion to receive the changes of policy CB, school superintendent, as a first reading.
May I have a second?
We're doing it by individual.
My plan.
Okay.
I'd
May-
second.
Seconded by Ms. Wilson. Discussion? Seeing no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Next motion, Mr.
Make a
Sheehan.
motion to receive and recommend changes to policy CBD, superintendent's contract, as a first reading.
Seconded by Ms. Ansley Williams. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Next motion.
You were doing so well.
I know,
Devin.
keep it going.
I'll make a motion to accept policy CBI, evaluation of the superintendent, as a first reading.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. LaFave. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Next motion.
Make a motion to approve policy CCB, line and staff relations, as a first reading.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. LaFave. Discussion. Ms. LaFave.
So real quickly, if we can just, I don't know, fix whatever, but it's repetitive on your proposed policy. Because we said we're going to add the third paragraph from MASC model and change school system, but it's repetitive on the second paragraph. So I don't know if you just want to remove that, the whole sentence in the second paragraph.
What second sentence?
So if you look, it'll say it is in the second paragraph, it'll say it is expected that the established lines of authority will serve most purposes, but all personnel will have the right to appeal any decision made by an administrative officer through established grievance procedures.
I see it now, thank you.
So
So you're
if
looking,
we can just remove
That-
remove it from the second paragraph, I guess, because you were adding it as a third paragraph, or just remove the third paragraph? Because you already have it in the second.
Mr. Sheehan.
So I guess I need to know more in practice. So I understand that bargaining employees probably have an established grievance procedure through their collective bargaining agreement. What about non-bargaining employees?
this is what the non-bargaining, this is their relationship. So this is personnel that refer matters to the administrator.
Right, but I guess for a non-bargaining employee, if they're taking their right to appeal the decision made by an appeal to any decision made by an administrative officer through established grievance procedures, what are the grievance procedures for a non-bargaining employee?
Mr. Soto.
Yeah, so if an employee, you know, if the employee always has the right to to appeal a decision that, that a principal makes. But, and so I guess we would have to look at the employee handbook to see that language. So, because that's where all matters related to non-bargaining employees would be spelled out. So I'd have to look at that language, but I'm trying to think in practice, when there is, either a, when there's disciplinary action being taken, by a principal or a supervisor, and an employee wants to appeal that decision to the superintendent, that has happened in practice. But I don't have it off the top of my head. I would want to look at the employee handbook to see if there's anything in there related to grievances.
Mr. Sheehan?
So I guess I'm okay with this. Well, have to be an amendment anyways because it is duplicated on here. But I guess I'm okay with that in theory as a first reading on this.
Right.
But I need more clarity on that it actually is spelled out in the employee handbook or the personnel handbook, because if not, we're then creating a process. So, which is fine, but this policy just needs to be ready that now the personnel handbook needs to be updated with a procedure for non-bargaining employees with a grievance process. So, and that's not something that typically non-bargaining employees wouldn't necessarily go through an established grievance procedure, and this is therefore establishing a grievance procedure for those employees. But it seems like you're in support of that because it's there, but I would need to know more about that in the second. Like I said, I'm okay right now, but
right.
Okay. So then the motion would be to amend. May I make an amendment to the motion to accept this, that we would, in the second paragraph, we will delete the one where it starts, it is expected all the way through procedures, in order so it's not duplicated.
Do we have a second on the amendment?
second.
All right.
Vote on the amendment.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Now on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Excuse me, is there any discussion on this motion first?
We had discussion on this already. Next up,
Make a
Mr.
motion.
Shane.
Make a motion to approve policy CE, administrative councils, cabinets, and committees as a first reading.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. LaFave. Discussion.
So this policy,
Ms. Wilson.
I apologize. I just started. I apologize to Madam Vice Chair. So this, when we are making minor decisions like this, where we're just changing the gender neutral to a gender neutral pronoun, or we are changing the word system to district, or youth to students, we've made a blanket decision that these do not need to come forward, that we can just make those minor changes. Is that?
Yes.
That's my understanding, correct? Yes. So as far as this goes, this was just a minor change.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Any other discussion? All right. Ms. Wilson?
Sorry, I do need to make a change to the first line, he, she, they, and change he, she to they, because I missed it myself. For CE. And just so people know, I'm going in my little thing and updating these as we go. So I apologize for missing that.
We forgive you. Thank you.
Should I withdraw the motion, or what's your pleasure?
So since this was a minor change, it did not need to go through
I'll withdraw my motion.
the full.
Sounds good.
I'll make a motion now to approve CHA/CHC development and regulations as a first reading.
Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Collmore. Ms. LaFave.
Okay, I just need clarification then for one moment because on the, yeah, we just talked about, so even though if it's a minor change for gender neutral, just help me to understand, are we just going straight through and saying that the policies to become effective on July 1st? Because that we did not say.
So my understanding is that the policies that we are approving right now will be effective July 1st.
We haven't said that. We only said it to one.
It's the second reading ones are the ones that,
We haven't even gotten there yet.
Right, the first reading we still have to post.
Okay,
Right.
no, because I was just wondering, because you said about the administrative council cabinet one, it was the gender, that it didn't have to come here.
It doesn't need to go through. That's what we said. We said if it was just
But
a minor change.
But it's going to be posted. It's going to follow that track or no? Do you
I
Point of
do
order,
understand
can
what
we-
you're saying.
Can we go to the motion at hand?
Yep.
Same thing.
On the motion. Mr. Sheehan.
So just clarity on the new language that.
Can we tell me which policy we're at now? I apologize.
HA.
Thank you. Please go ahead. I apologize.
So the procedure concerning a particular group or groups in the schools will be distributed to the group or groups prior to the effective date
Mhm.
of the procedure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll just say it seems kind of open. It could be an hour before the email
Right.
comes out, or is this intended to be a week before? Like, it's just, I mean, it could be I'm sending this email and here's this policy to this group 30 seconds ahead of time.
In the MASC guideline policy that we were referring to, it did not have a structured time. If we so choose, we can absolutely add that into prior, 5 business days prior to. We can, as a group, can add that in.
I will make a motion to table and refer back to the policy committee.
Okay.
Seconded by Mr. Collmore. Discussion?
I don't.
Point of order, no discussions on tabling.
Oh. Sorry. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Abstentions? So moved. Ms. Wilson?
Can I clarify? The whole purpose of the first pass is to make adjustments that the school committee wants. Because if you just send this back to the policy and governance subcommittee, we don't know what you're looking for. If you're looking for a timeline, that is something that I, being chair of this subcommittee, is looking for. That's why we have a first pass. So if you have any suggestions to modify it, that's what I'm looking for. If it's an easy modification, that's the whole purpose of the first read before we post.
Mr. Sheehan?
Then if it's okay with the vice chair and the committee, I'll withdraw my motion to table, and I'm going to make a motion to amend. So where it says the procedure concerning a particular group or groups in the schools will be distributed to the group or groups at least 3 business days prior to the effective date of the procedure.
Seconded by Mr. Isasa.
3 business days.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Now on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Motion passes unanimously. Right on to the next policy.
agenda. Make a motion to approve CHCA as a first reading.
Discussion? Mr. Cullimore?
On discussion of what the superintendent brought up earlier about employees that are not,
Point of order, this is,
On the
that's not on the
motion.
motion. The motion is the policy dealing with,
Approval of handbook of directives.
some of the regulation.
Discussion on the motion? Right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
I'm losing stuff. It's CHD.
So that one doesn't need action.
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve CM. Nope, never mind. It doesn't need to be.
Okay. So these are all minor changes.
Madam Vice Chair?
Yes. Ms. Wilson?
So CHD administration and policy absence, it was a minor policy, so we do not need to make that change.
And is that also
Again-
true for CM?
Yeah, and the same for CM. It's changing system to district.
Right. Do we need a motion for DA?
We're just looking for a format change on this. We had some language that was in bold when it was printed, so it's just a formatting change so that there's no motion needed for this.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve DB annual budget as a first reading.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
That's Ms.
Make a
Wilson
second.
and a second. Discussion, Ms. LaFave.
So when I'm looking at DB and when we get to DBD, the proposed change on DBD is exactly what DB's proposed change is. So is this proposed change on this one belong to this one? Or does it belong to the other one?
Just pulling up my long notes. For section D. What's the policy again? D.
So right now
DB
we're
and
on
DBD.
DB, but DBD's proposed change is well when it's clean because I don't have anything highlighted. It's the exact same reading as what you're proposing in DB.
There should have been changes to this, so I'm gonna make a motion that we table this because there should have been.
Second.
Both or just the
I'm just doing DB right now.
okay.
There was a second on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion is tabled. And that was only on DB, correct?
DB, correct.
Okay.
DB.
Yeah.
Now we're on DBD.
DBD.
Budget planning. I don't even know what to say. Like, would it be wrong if I said to table it?
No, it wouldn't be wrong.
No,
Let's
you,
go back.
Okay, so motion to table DBD budget planning and refer back to the policy subcommittee.
seconded by Mr. Jose Williams. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Move to approve DD, funding proposals and applications as a first reading.
Seconded by Mr. Isasa. Discussion? Ms. LaFave.
Okay, so this is the one that I think I really need to understand. You just talked a minute ago, Mr. Sheehan, about things going straight to subcommittees and never coming here. So, Miss Wilson, I read the proposed updates, okay, and I understand from you of what Ms. LaFawn from MASC explained that the school committee cannot transfer their authority or abdicate and will seek professional opinion. You explained that within a cost center would need approval from the school committee. But then I got lost in this other part. So, if Mr. Wellahan or Ms. Wilson can please explain, because how I'm interpreting this is nothing from finance is coming to the school committee for our approval. It's more so for an informational purpose only, that all those other decisions will be made by the finance and operations subcommittee. So can someone explain to me what we're doing? Just so that I know.
Mr. Sheehan?
I guess I'm also just unclear for clarity. So I read the current HPS policy that's here.
Yeah.
And there's a proposed update, but that proposed update, I don't understand at all what the actual proposal is, because it's a lot of quotations and it's not actual policy language. So I'm open to anything. I just need to understand what the actual proposal is.
I'm going to ask we table this.
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Make a motion to approve DEC as a first reading.
What about D? Oh yeah, sorry. Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Just adding the cross-reference.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Make a motion to approve DI fiscal accounting and reporting as a first reading.
Second.
Discussion? Oh. Go ahead. Mr. Sheehan? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Motion to approve DIE as a first reading.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. LaFave. Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Motion to approve DGA purchasing authority as a first reading.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. LaFave. Discussion. Mr. Sheehan.
So I'm reading here the notes that are on here.
And that's just for our internal use, just so we want to make sure that that will not be included in the policy. It's just trying to give some background information.
Right. Do we have the actual like city ordinance to cross-reference on here?
We do not.
Can we add that for the second reading?
DJA, find city ordinance. Absolutely, we can do that.
Further discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Make a motion to approve DJE. I think it's to be called procurement requirements
It would be.
as a first reading.
Second, discussion?
So it is looking at changing the title because it is about procurement and not just bidding requirements. And it's adding more information.
Mr. Sheehan?
So I'm also concerned by, in the proposed policy, where it says for any supply or service over 50,000 bids will be advertised appropriately, just because for consistency, we remove the 25,000 threshold for purchases and materials, but we're leaving in the 50, and we've seen, I just think if the law changes and changes the thresholds, why would we bind ourselves to those? I mean, so we could have lower thresholds than the law or city ordinance establishes, but we set a lower threshold, and that just seems, it just seems challenging. So I'm going to make a motion to amend in the third paragraph, for any supply, to read for any supplier service, any supply and service. Hold on.
Give me 1 second, and I'm going to go with you on that. So give me 1 second. DJE, correct?
Yeah.
I want to capture what you're saying. Thank you. All right. Third
The
paragraph?
third paragraph.
Yep.
So to strike out the line for any supplier service at over 50,000.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this, I'm going to make a motion to table this.
Second.
I need to read over this.
Seconded by Mr. Collins.
I will commit to bringing back some suggestions. Like, I can help you. Yeah, I just need to look at the law, like to see how to word it.
30B has changed.
Yeah, we just need it to be more flexibility to follow the law rather than to bind ourselves. So, make a motion to table.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Wilson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Tabled.
Motion.
Make a motion to approve AE commitment to accomplishments as a second reading and to adopt as of July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Make a motion to approve AA school district legal status as a second reading and to adopt as of July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Lefebvre. Oh, Mr. Isasa? I couldn't hear you.
Make a motion to approve policy.
No, we didn't take a
Wait.
vote yet.
Oh,
to-
sorry.
I know we got it going.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Make a motion to approve policy AD mission statement as a second reading effective July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Wilson. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Make a motion to approve ADC as a second reading and approve as of July 1st, 2025.
It sounds like Williams on the second. Discussion? Mr. Willihan.
This policy was broken by the students when I was in high school, every day. every day. Not by me.
It was by me. I did smoke cigarettes on campus. I'm a horrible person. Yes, I did in high school.
Mr. Sheehan.
So just clarity on this.
Yes.
In the agenda, it says that the title is smoking on school premise, but in the body, the original policy is ADC tobacco products on school premises prohibited. So
Which one is it?
ADB.
No. I meant
ADC.
like which
ADC.
title is what you're saying?
So in the agenda, it's titled as smoking on school premises. In the policy, it says ADC tobacco products on school premise prohibited. I'm just wondering just for clarity, how this is supposed to be titled. I'm assuming tobacco products is how it should be titled.
Give me one moment while I DC.
Your assumption's correct. That's just the name
Tobacco
of the-
products on school premises prohibited.
Okay, so just for the record, I mean, that's fine, just, it's in there, but just so we have for the record.
ADC. Okay.
Ms. Lefebvre.
So, with that being said, I think the action needs to be included in that title, and the action is the use. Well, it talks about use of it. What if they're carrying it in their bag? So are we saying it's prohibited? So if it's in their car, it's prohibited. And you can fire an employee for having a lighter or a pack of cigarettes in their vehicle. They're not smoking it on property, because everywhere else is talking about use of any tobacco product. It's using it. They're not using it. The action is the use.
Mr. Sheehan?
Give me 1 second. There is a document, GBED, tobacco and e-cigarette use. It's prohibited. Smoking or using it is prohibited. And let me go one more back. Sorry. And, well, we covered some of that in the student. I think, hold on. Drug-free workplace. So clarification, it is use. We haven't gotten to J yet. This JICH talks to a student shall not, regardless of quality, possess, buy, or sell. So when we talk about ADC, it's the use. It's not possession. How students are breaking a policy is through JICH, when students have possession of that. So what you're speaking to is that you want to change the title.
I think the way that it reads right now is tobacco products on school premises prohibited.
So you would like to change the title
should be
to
on the use.
Make the
use.
motion
So the motion would be use of tobacco products.
to amend.
To amend. Motion to amend ADC to add use of tobacco products on school premises
Second.
prohibited.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Oh,
opposed? Oh,
sorry.
you had discussion? Sorry. Go
It
ahead.
really quickly, so that was a second reading.
Yes.
Would it would still, could still propose change for July 1st? Okay. Just wondering. Thank you.
Okay, so we're changing that. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Right. On the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved.
Make a motion to approve ACE non-discrimination on the basis of disability as a second reading effective July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Isasa?
That's what it's going to be.
It's
He's
going to be
just
on the
using it.
basis of disability.
Yeah. And the proposed change is disability.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Make a motion to approve ACA non-discrimination on the basis of sex as a second reading effective July 1st, 2025.
We missed one.
We can go back.
Okay. Well, then wait.
No, we're on ACE.
CAB.
No.
Right, but I made the motion for ACA.
Right.
Okay.
No, we did ACE.
Right. So now we're doing ACAB. Thank
But
you.
I made
Oh.
the motion for ACA.
For
so, yeah.
ACA, so yes. Mr. Sheehan?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to amend the title and change it non-discrimination on the basis of gender.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. Now on the main motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
A motion to. Go ahead, Mr. Sheehan.
Motion to approve ACAB, sexual harassment, Title IX, as a second reading effective July 1st, 2025.
Second by Leslie Williams. Discussion. Discussion. Mr. Sheehan.
Just a question matter of process. Mr. Soto, are you the final decision maker on all complaints?
Yes.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Mr. Wellahan.
Is there like a backup member, Mr. Soto, to you for that purpose, like in case you can't participate for any reason? Is there like a designee backup?
Not currently specified. So, I mean, I think that
I think I've seen, yeah, I mean, I think I've seen that in other policies where, you know, if, you know, you couldn't participate for whatever reason, you know, if there's a designee.
Mr. Sheehan.
I don't think you can for Title IX stuff. I don't believe there is a provision for a backup decision maker.
Ms. Wilson.
This is very regulated by statute and legal, so it would be the superintendent. and the Title IX coordinator. Yeah.
Any further discussion?
I just want to clarify one thing on this, that we do have permission. It was granted that if Beth Gage or Maricel Barisi leave, that the school committee has given the superintendent the ability to update this if as personnel change, and just notify the school committee of that change after the fact in order to have timely information updated. I just wanted to clarify that.
Mr. Callamore?
I'd just like to get a clarification on the superintendent's role of an employee that is not in the union.
Can I,
Ms. Wilson?
and what do you mean by his role? Do you mean as far as hiring, as far as grievances, as far as termination, supervision?
As far as, I'm going to say termination. What I'm getting at is if an employee,
This discussion has to be on the motion. Or on policy ACAB.
aren't we discussing the policy of employees now?
We're discussing the Title IX policy, sexual harassment.
Well, harassment, whatever you want to bring it up. If an employee of our system assaults or does not obey his boss, going up from custodian all the way up, right? What is the responsibility of this superintendent to do with that employee? See, I don't want, in a lot of contracts we've done over the years, the union specifically says if you don't belong to the union after a certain amount of time, then he or she can be terminated by the superintendent of schools.
Mr. Collimer, the discussion on the motion right now, this motion is about all persons associated with Holyoke Public Schools, including but not necessarily limited to the committee, the administration, staff, and students are expected to conduct themselves at all times as to provide an atmosphere free from sexual harassment. That's the policy we're discussing right now. So discussion has to be on the policy.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
BBAA as a second reading effect and approve as of July 1st, 2025.
Do we have a second? Second, Mr. Wellahan. Discussion.
I would say these are minor changes. These were talking about, it was a gender neutral, changing it to each member of a team, visit the students to all students, instead of city public schools to district. And then the gender neutral pronoun of there.
Right? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Make a motion to approve BDD as a final reading effective July 1st, 2025.
Seconded by Ms. Densler Williams. Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Motion to approve BDE as a final reading effective July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. LaFave. Discussion. Ms. Wilson?
So we're putting the cart before the horse. So I just need to clarify that we're going to be talking about school committee membership. And then, so this policy speaks to us moving to having a voted in chairperson and a voted in vice chair. So I just wanted to say those words out loud, that this speaks to that we're going to be approving the other policy where we are, adopting that we are voting in a chairperson and it's not automatically the mayor. So I just wanted to make note of that.
Mr. Sheehan?
But we're only doing that because the city solicitor told us we had to.
She said, yes, the city solicitor, their legal opinion was that the mayor in our bylaws and for the city, it does not clarify that it is the mayor, that we should have had this.
I want to make that clear for the record. That this
Thank you. This is not something we were just deciding.
Right.
This was a legal opinion that we've gotten several months ago.
That the mayor himself secured.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Make a motion to approve BDF as a final reading effective July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. LaFave. Discussion.
We're only adding a legal reference.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstains? So moved.
Motion to approve BBBC as a final reading effective July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Second by Ms. LaFave. Discussion.
We are just clarifying the appropriate certifying authority as the chair and the mayor, and then also just gender neutral language.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Don't need to do anything to BCA.
No.
Motion to approve BDA as a second and final reading effective July 1st, 2025.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson. Discussion. Ms. LaFave.
Okay, so on this one, there's going to be two things. Number one, when you're looking at your clean version, it totally eliminates what you just said that you wanted to do in the first place.
So
That's
let's
number one.
So first of all, let's just not look at the clean version. If we just look at the HPS version and the proposed change version.
Follow.
So
Okay.
if the clean version still has
Yep. Yep.
it doesn't talk.
Right.
So the question is the second sentence. The secretary shall call the roll and each member shall answer stating their choice for, it should say chair and a vice chair.
Yep.
That's the only thing we missed, the chairperson in that, for that one.
But it's above and highlighted.
It's
right?
above and highlighted. So if we just look at the highlighted,
Right. Of the changes.
Okay.
yes. If we just look at the highlighted, the secretary does a roll call, we elect a chair. After that, we do a roll call and we elect a vice chairperson. If the chair or vice chair is absent, and then we do a pro tem.
And then the second part of that is we have been saying that these are going to be effective July 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to say that this one will be effective January 1st, 2026? I'm just wondering, would we have to then change the current makeup where the mayor is the chair as of this time? So that's why I'm wondering, should we state that this one will become effective for January 1st, 2026, which then our organizational meeting will be January 6th?
Mr. Sheehan.
I think you made the point that we're not going to have an organizational meeting in July.
Right.
So the next organizational
I don't
meeting
think-
wouldn't
Be
be till January.
January.
So even if we approve it as of July, it's in effect for January.
Yeah.
All right. Just want to make sure.
Ms. Tinsley Williams.
You might-
Microphone.
The chair, the vice chair is absent. What do we do then?
Pro tem.
You would vote in for a chairperson pro
For
tem
that
just
meeting.
for that one meeting.
Ms. Wilson.
Typically, the chair and vice chair would communicate to that person or ask that person if they're willing to step into that role, and it wouldn't be a surprise for that person the day of the meeting when they walk in, just so you know.
Mr. Wellahan.
Typically, it's a person with the longest service
Yeah.
on the committee.
Get ready for it, Mr. Collmore.
Mr. Sheehan.
Nothing.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. We're almost there, guys.
Just wait. We got a lot more coming.
Motion to approve BDB as a second and final reading,
Second.
effective July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Fav. Discussion? Mr. Sheehan.
So, in the policy, it was, I just lost the policy. We're removing the title secretary from that of the superintendent.
Hold on 1 second. I'm coming down there. Yes, because in reality, I'm sorry.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes, because in reality, it's not the secretary that keeps track of it. It truly is the superintendent or designee that manages keeping the accurate records. It's always been part of the superintendent's office. And I believe this was created when we were thinking that the secretary to the superintendent is also the secretary to the school committee, and it's not the same. And so we are clarifying that it's the superintendent or the designee that is required to comply with state law for keeping accurate journal of all the meetings.
But doesn't Mass General Law indicate that the superintendent is the secretary?
I don't know. And I think that
Ms. LaFave.
I don't know.
No, actually, it just says that the school committee shall appoint a secretary who shall keep a permanent record book in which all its votes, orders, and proceedings shall be recorded, which some other school committees across the Commonwealth, they elect their own secretary, and it's not actually the superintendent.
Ms. Wilson.
So historically, it's been our superintendent who's done this, and I think the language is just speaking and with clarity as to whose role the person is responsible for this.
Ms. LaFave.
I'm just looking at
Oh.
both.
I'm like, what happened? All right. Mr. Collmore.
That's in the superintendent's contract, that his duties and responsibilities is that he shall keep all the minutes or his designee shall keep all the minutes of the meeting. We as a board didn't change it.
Right.
We just hired who we wanted with the approval of the superintendent, who will be our secretary.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Make a motion to approve BDFA as a second and final reading effective July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Wilson?
No, there's just, this is a hot topic. Because this is required that every school have a school council and they meet on a regular basis. And so we're just putting this into place.
Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Last but not
Make a
least.
motion to approve
Biba.
BIBA School Committee Conferences, Conventions, and Workshops as a second and final reading effective July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Yeah. Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. And that concludes that section of the agenda.
Are you good, Irene?
And I just wanted to highlight an announcement from the mayor. May 13th, City Council Chambers, budget hearing. He wanted a state of the city. So 6 p.m., City Council Chambers, May 13th. He wants us to be there. So,
May 3rd.
yes. 6 p.m. May 13th.
No, I will.
Ms. Wilson.
I am double booked that day and I'm not able to be there. I have a previous work related commitment.
It happens. Mr. Sheehan.
Make a motion to enter executive session for the purposes of negotiations, because an open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee for the purposes of interim superintendent
Second.
and not coming back.
Not coming back.
Mr. Willihan.
Can we just go back to announcements for a second? I just have to make an announcement that to my colleagues and the residents of Ward 5 that I will not be seeking another term this year on the board, just for personal reasons. And I look forward to continuing the work this year. We have a lot of work to do, and I'm committed to that. And I'd just be happy to meet with anyone from Ward 5 that wants to pull papers and discuss the position. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Willihan, and thank you for your service to our committee. And don't go too far. Right.
Make a motion to enter executive session for the purposes of negotiations with non-union contract for the interim superintendent and not return to open session.
Seconded by Ms. Tensley Williams. Roll call vote, please, starting with Ms. LaFave.
Ms. LaFave?
Yes.
Ms. LeBron Martinez? Ms. Tensley Williams?
See.
Mr. Izaza? Yes. Mr. Willihan?
Yes.
Mr. Collmore?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Dr. Rivera Colon?
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.